Well, I hope that you've had a good day today. I hope your week has gone well so far. I'm excited that we get the next little while to study scripture tonight. More particularly, I'm excited about studying the book of Job. We don't have any announcements, but it seems like more and more people are getting sick. So if you're sick, we ask that you would just please let us know so we can certainly be praying for you. And if we can do anything at all for you, we just ask that we would ask us. But we do want everybody to know that we're praying for you and we love you. And if we can do anything for you, just please let us know. We finished Job chapter 31 last week. If you remember, Job chapter 29, Job reflects on the past. He's reflecting about the good old days. And then in Job chapter 30, he's really concerned about his current state, what has changed from the good old days until now. But then in chapter 31, like we saw last week, Job takes this great vow of innocence. He lists, more specifically in Job chapter 31, he lists 14 specific sins that he knows he's not guilty of committing. Now, what's interesting about that is, remember, Job's main purpose right now is to get God to answer him. He wants God to speak to him. Well, God is nowhere to be found so far in the book of Job. At least that's Job's perspective. God is hidden. You can't summon God. He's having problems. So Job really wants to force God's hand. So he says he's not guilty of these curses. Not curses. He's not guilty of these sins. Now, if Job is guilty of those sins, which he said he was not guilty of, then God is to curse him. And if God curses him, then everybody will know that Job was guilty of a heinous offense and God is just delivering his justice. If God doesn't answer, though, then it appears to everybody that Job is innocent and he is suffering for no reason. Now, chapter 31 was interesting because not only do we see that Job is trying to force God's hand in providing an answer for him, but we also see that Job is just a really good guy. I mean, he is a guy that we would all like to be like. Job really focuses on doing the right thing. He loves the truth. He loves to walk the path of righteousness. Remember, before we've seen that Job says God has laid out this path in his life and Job is walking that path. His foot isn't straying from that path. That's something we would all like to be like. Job chapter 32, though. Job chapter 32, we're introduced to a new character. Remember, the friends aren't going to speak anymore. So Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, they're done speaking. We've heard from them in their 3 cycle of speeches. But in Job chapter 32, we're introduced to this guy named Elihu. And Elihu is a very young man, and he is very fiery. I think what we're going to see from chapter 32 is although Elihu is young, he has a message and he is going to say it regardless of what anybody else thinks about it. So we won't waste any more time on an introduction. We'll jump right into it. Job chapter 32. If you haven't read Job chapter 32, please pause the video. Go read Job chapter 32. That might help with our interaction with the text tonight. So Job chapter 32 verse 1. So these 3 men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Well, what we see from Job chapter 32 verse 1 is we've seen so far the friends in their 3 cycle of speeches. They're wanting to help Job. They're wanting to get him back up, but in an attempt to help him back up, they just kick him back down, okay? They're not good friends. They don't act like good friends. They think they are more righteous than Job. They're above helping him. And remember, Job has kind of felt that from the friends. He thinks the friends view him as inferior. And that really aggravates and upsets Job. So Job has told them, my advice to you is for you to shut your mouth. You go stand over there and let me take this up with God and y'all just listen. Well, from Job chapter 32 verse 1, we learn that maybe the friends have quit speaking because they just have no answer for Job. Now, that's a problem because remember, we talked about in an ancient court setting, how do you win a dispute in court? Well, you reduce the other person to silence. Well, if the friends aren't responding to Job's arguments anymore, how does it appear to others that are listening? Well, it appears that Job is innocent. Well, we're going to see that really makes Elihu upset. Verse 2, Then Elihu, the son of Barakal the Buzite of the family of Ram, burned with anger. He burned with anger at Job because he justified himself rather than God. So, where do we get the idea that Elihu was a very, very fiery guy? Well, let me tell you what you're going to read a lot in Job chapter 32. You're going to learn that Elihu burned with anger. Elihu is an angry fella at the moment. And one reason that he's angry is because, like we just read, he burned with anger at Job because he justified himself rather than God. In other words, Job, who are you to continue to speak and speak and speak and portray yourself as righteous, and in doing so, you portray God as unjust? Who are you to do that? Now, this is where we really have to wrestle in the book of Job, because I'm not so sure that Job has done that. Maybe it appears at times that he has, but Job, remember, he's struggling with his faith, okay? There's tension. He has this view of God, that God is punishing him, okay? The reason for Job's misfortune, the reason for his plight, all the reason that we read about in Job chapter 30, where Job is describing his current state, it's because God is punishing him. God, in one sense, is acting like his enemy. But then Job has this other portrayal of God, that God is this God of justice. He's a God of holiness. God will do what is right. So those two images of God are kind of at odds with each other, but Job holds on to the view that God will rescue him. At least it seems that way. But Elihu says, shame on you, Job. You shouldn't ever paint God in such a way that people think you're calling God unjust. So that makes him upset, and he's going to want to tell Job about it. Well, we get to verse 3. He burned with anger also at Job's three friends because they had found no answer, although they had declared Job to be in the wrong. Well, on the one hand, he's upset because Job has painted a negative portrayal of God, but then, on the other hand, he's upset with the friends because the friends, if they truly believe they have the right answer, they've given up. Why would you give up? Why would you let it appear as if Job is right? If you truly believe... Now remember, let's pause there for a second. Let's put a pin in that and go back to it maybe. Remember who the friends claim they're speaking for, right? You might remember that earlier on in the book of Job. The friends claim to be speaking for God. Okay, in a sense, they view themselves as God's representatives. Well, hold on just a second. If you're God's representatives, why in the world would you ever stop talking? Why in the world would you ever stop refuting Job's arguments? Well, again, this really upsets Elihu. Now, Elihu, verse 4, had waited to speak to Job because they were older than he. And when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, he burned with anger. Okay, there it is again. He burned with anger. I mean, it's like we get the point. But that's repeated several times, and I think it's intentional. But we also learn that while Elihu is very passionate about what he wants to say, he still shows respect to the ones that are older than him. Now remember, especially as far as we've seen in the book of Job, where does wisdom reside? Well, wisdom resides in the elderly. That's where wisdom is. It was thought the older one is, the wiser that person is. Now, not always true, but that's the traditional understanding of wisdom. Remember, the elderly, they have the teaching of the fathers. That Job was instructed by Eliphaz and Zophar at times in Bildad to appeal to the teaching of the fathers. Elihu kept his mouth shut while they spoke. It's like you can see Elihu listening to their arguments, and he has a disagreement, but he's not going to bring it up. He's not going to say anything about it because he wants to show some respect, but he still has some thoughts. Well, then the friends get to the point where they're not going to speak anymore. And it's all Elihu can do to just keep his mouth shut. In fact, he can't do it anymore. So verse 6, and Elihu the son of Barakal the Buzite answered and said, I am young in years, and you are aged. Therefore I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I sat back, I listened to all this, but you know what? I just can't help but speak. So I'm going to offer an apology before I speak, but you need to know why I'm about to speak, okay? I said, let days speak and many years teach wisdom. So, okay, we see that. Elihu thought he doesn't need to bring up his thoughts. He doesn't need to give his opinion because they're Job and the friends, they're older than him. Let them speak because they're wise. That's what he thought. But, verse 8, but it is the spirit in man, the breath of the Almighty, that makes him understand. Elihu, you're about to speak. You're about to speak to Job and you're about to speak to the friends. What is the source of your inspiration? What's the source of your thoughts? Where do these ideas come from? They come from God. So Elihu, why are you going to speak? Well, I have some ideas and I am acting as God's representatives. I'm about to instruct you in the ways of God. You guys, you've misunderstood it. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. Job, you're hopelessly confused. But you need to listen to me because I know. It is not the old who are wise. I listened for your wise sayings while you searched out what to say. I gave you my attention, and behold, there was none among you who refuted Job or who answered his words. I gave it a shot. I went with the traditional understanding of wisdom, but let me tell you what personal experience showed me. It showed me that the traditional understanding of wisdom is wrong. I sat there and I listened to your arguments, and when you stopped speaking because you were trying to think about something else or you were trying to analyze an argument, I didn't say anything even though I might have wanted to. But now you say nothing. Nobody's answering Job, so I'll step up to the plate. Beware, verse 13, lest you say, we have found wisdom. May God vanquish him, not a man. He has not directed his words against me, and I will not answer him with your speeches. In other words, I'm about to speak to Job. I'm about to speak to y'all, and y'all used a lot of words, used a lot of crafty arguments. I'm going to use words, but I'm not going to use the same words you used, and I'm definitely not going to use the same arguments that you used. They are dismayed. They answer no more. They have not a word to say. And shall I wait because they do not speak, because they stand there and answer no more? Again, Elihu can't stand it anymore. He has to speak. I will answer with my share. I also will declare my opinion, for I am full of words. The spirit within me constrains me. Behold, my belly is like wine that has no vent, like new wineskins ready to burst. Elihu, why are you about to speak? I'm forced to. I'm forced to because I'm about to explode. Now, you put new wine in wineskins. What do the wineskins do? Well, they expand. Why do they expand? Because if they don't expand, they will break. Elihu, why are you speaking? Because I need to correct the thinking of Job, and I need to correct the thinking of Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. I need to offer a correct understanding of God, and if I don't, I feel as if I'm going to explode. I must vent my frustrations. I must vent to them. Verse 20, I must speak that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer. I will not show partiality to any man or use flattery toward any person, for I do not know how to flatter, else my Maker would soon take me away. So Job, I'm about to talk to you. I'm about to talk to you, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and I'm about to talk to you about God. But let me just say this. I don't have a side. Job, I'm not on your side. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, I'm not on your side. I'm not going to show partiality. I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, that's where we'll stop tonight because we don't have time to get into Job chapter 33, but we're going to find that Elihu is a man with a message, and he's going to share that message. And in a certain way, he kind of relieves some of the tension that has been created by the speeches of the friends and the speeches of Job. So I hope everybody is doing well. Can't wait to see everybody Sunday. God bless.